I'd also like to point out that something I mentioned a few years ago that we have to watch out for. When the China virus thing happened, I said we're being punished with pestilence and plague. There were three main punishments that come to Am Yisrael before Gullus, and they are uh, plague and pestilence, war, and famine. So at the time I said we see pestilences coming in, the plagues and everything, that was a China virus, and that passed. And I said, and if we don't get the message, war is going to come upon us. And the war started a few years later. And when the war started, I said another thing. So now you have to watch out for famine. And the way the economy is going, the United States going down, there's already a little bit of a famine attacking the United States. Regular people cannot afford the food. They can't. They have to choose between paying the rent and their taxes and basic necessities. That is really happening in America. It's due to, by the way, of their own creation because of their foolish taxation and economic policies and causing inflation. You could once again speak to the people who know this better than I do for how that's happening, but you can see it happening and it affects us. Just the last 2 weeks, my neighbors are talking about, hey, suddenly things are much more expensive than Makolet. Yet you don't have more money in your pocket and you're not getting more money. What's going on? And yes, it's creeping, but it's going to happen, like Dr. Lynn showed. Sometimes you can have a famine caused by so-called acts of God. Sorry, so-called nature, but it's really acts of God. God prevents the rain from happening, so you won't have any food. And sometimes we could have famines of our own creation because of our foolish economic uh, policies and behaviors. So that's what we're basically looking at. We're looking at a famine coming upon us, just like for many of us, the marshmallow generation, the idea of a plague uh, is something that we thought would never happen again because we had technology, we've come so far, and that's a thing of the past. And thank God every day that turns out the China virus did not harm children. But could you imagine if this was an actual plague that was actually so dangerous as to affect children? Thank God it didn't. We could imagine that's what it used to be in the olden days. There were plagues that affected children, if not just as harshly as adults and the elderly, but perhaps even more so. Those were terrible. We haven't had those, so God spared us. We have to thank Him. But now we have war, and where the war is continuing, and that is not a good thing. That is a sign that we have to apologize. We have to mend our ways, and this isn't something that's such a secret. It's very clear what we all have to do as individuals and as a nation. And we're not getting this message. So I fear that just like has been in history and just has been told by the Torah, we will suffer famine in some form or another. And we could actually see the storm clouds on the horizon, the seeds. If I can mix another, uh, what is it? A mixed mushel, as they say, mixed metaphor in English. You see the storm clouds are coming. The seeds have already been planted. There's something coming, and it's not going to be pretty. It's the first famine we will have experienced in our lifetimes and our parents' lifetimes. So watch out. And if we don't get the message from that, then the worst is yet to come. That could be going back into the exile, which is why, unfortunately, we don't necessarily buy the idea espoused by people like Rav Sharkey and Rav Herzog that this is it. There cannot be another exile. Uh, there cannot be another exile after the final redemption. But we might not let this be the final redemption if we just continue doing this way. We could ruin this, and it will just be a continuation of the destruction of the Second Temple, as Rabbi Berger pointed out. So please watch out, be careful, take this to heart. Our history has indicated this, and our Nevi'im have promised us this.